All right. Hello, everyone. It is Nicole Rhone, your favorite capacity coach, and I am streaming across several platforms right now. I'm on Facebook, I'm on LinkedIn, and I'm on YouTube. And I normally release podcast episodes on Tuesdays, but I wanted to come on here because number one, I've never done a live podcast before, so I'm super excited about that. Number two, I wanted to really have an open and honest conversation with you about parenting. And since we are in Women's History Month, I really wanted to make sure that I highlighted the parenting part because as parents, we are constantly making sacrifices. We're constantly trying to, raise kids that are better than us so that we set them up for success. And I'm really excited about the history that I've been able to make as a parent in my personal life and how it's impacted my professional life. So tonight, I am going to be talking about purposeful parenting. And if you've seen the post, then I talked a little bit about what that means. So I'm going to be sharing how counseling, communication, and capacity. Yes, y'all know that's my favorite word. Hey, Lanisha. How all three of these things together have helped me make history as a parent. And I have a special surprise guest, you guys. I am so excited to bring this guest on because being a parent, y'all know I couldn't do this by myself, right? I didn't become a parent by myself, right? So I am bringing on none other than Chef Rhone himself. My husband, Darius Rhone, is going to actually join me for this conversation because he is a huge part of me being able to have capacity, a huge part of me being able to be a history maker. And moms, for those of you who have the dads in your lives, most of them, I hope, are helping you to do the same thing. So without further ado, I am going to bring in Mr. Darius Rhone so that we can get into this conversation about purposeful parenting. Let me scoot on over. Come on in. Hey. How you doing, sir?
Good evening. How you doing?
Good. We say that like we haven't been sitting together today, right?
Yeah.
So what I want to do, first of all, thank you so much for being part of the podcast. I know that you have, never really gone live with me before. No. You nervous? Don't be nervous. I won't make you nervous, okay? So I invited you on the podcast because you have watched this evolution of me going from corporate, being a business owner, being a capacity coach. You have been fully supportive as I've shared, the trials and tribulations that we've been through as a couple. And in my last podcast episode, I'll let you listen to a little bit of it. Mm-hmm. I talked a lot about how, the support of you and how we've been able to really model good behavior. That was one of the ways that I talked about breaking the cycle. Mm-hmm. And so tonight I want to talk a little bit about counseling first. Okay. Can I be honest?
You can.
I can be honest?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So you guys, one of the things that, we struggled with at the very beginning was counseling. So if you are someone who comes from a family or a space or a place where counseling is like a no-no, anybody raise their hand in the chat too? Yes, I'm going to raise both hands because, I didn't grow up going to counseling. It was kind of shunned. Everything was talking about, pray about it, right? Mm-hmm. And so in the beginning, I really was the only one that was going into counseling. And I saw how that was changing my life. So I wanted to make sure that, this one was up for counseling. And if I'm honest, at first he wasn't. No. He was like, I'm not going. I don't need that. Ain't nothing wrong. Black folks don't do counseling. Nope. Nope. Right? That's, the mindset that you had. Yes. But as we had our journey in going through separation and really getting our family back together, that shifted for you.
It did.
And so tell me how you feel counseling has helped us as parents and to parent more purposefully.
There's a couple of things. First of all, I was very reluctant on just not even going to counseling because, like you said, it was frowned upon. But going through what we went through and fighting for, everything that we were fighting for, I had to be open. I had to be receptive to it. Hearing somebody else say, well, she does have a point. It's not always going to be my way, her way.
I got a little validation.
Yeah, you got a little validation. But it was funny, hearing it from another perspective, another person that was in the room of counseling that was not just one-sided, but also seeing both point of views. And then when you came to the round table and said, well, he sees it this way and she sees it this way, how about y'all see it together this way?
Mm-hmm.
And that made a big difference.
Mm-hmm.
And then, we were able to talk things out instead of, I said it this way and I said it that way. Talking is key.
Mm-hmm.
And it helps, because if you don't talk, there is no relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you don't have that relationship, then it's just one-sided.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's just that one-sidedness. And then that's where you start to grow apart.
Mm-hmm.
But with the counseling and everything, it brought us a lot closer together.
It did.
I started to believe in you. You started to believe in me, because that trust was gone.
Mm-hmm.
But as we sat there for months, people, not
lots
days,
of
months,
time.
it took a lot for us to get to the space that we're at.
Mm-hmm.
And then now we're able to talk and, okay, put plan A to plan B. And if that doesn't work, you got C, D, and E and everything else.
Mm-hmm.
So I do encourage counseling for any and everybody, because it's just not for females
mm-hmm.
or children or anything else. It's for us.
Mm-hmm.
And it's about us.
It is. And I think that, apart from us going individually, right? We went individually, then we did marriage counseling. We brought the kids into that. And so that was really, really different for us. But it's been super beneficial in how we parent, because you don't laugh at me. I see you laughing at me. I know that I'm passionate about what I do. I'm passionate about my family. And sometimes when things don't go my way, that passion can come out in different ways. And so it really taught me how to have better conversations with our children. Because if you don't know, we have 3, right? So we have our 19-year-old who will be 20.
Yes.
We have my 17-year-old sister who we took in when my dad passed. And then we have our 8-year-old Liam, who tries me every day. I'm trying to tell him to try Jesus. Don't try me, because I throw hands, right? But, it gave us the tools, I think, to really be able to parent in different ways.
Yes.
I grew up getting whoopings. Now, mind you, I was allergic to whoopings, so I didn't have to get a whole lot of them. I don't know about this one over here.
Yeah, I got a lot of them.
But it allowed us to find different methods for parenting. It allowed us to really see our kids as individual and help us to help them through the stuff that they're going through. Because you all know, the things that kids go through now are not the same as when we grew up.
No.
There was no Facebook. There was no Instagram. There was not just like this exploitation of your whole entire life. There was no cyberbullying. There was none of that. So there's a much larger influence on our kids these days. So being able to cope through all of those different things, I believe that parenting really, or the counseling, helped us to do that. And to kind of change the trajectory.
Yes.
Now, I know our 19-year-old is not going to be happy about this, but I'm going to talk about it anyway, because we're being real, right? So one of the biggest challenges, I would say, was when our daughter turned 18.
Yes.
You remember that? I see that face. And we were not happy with some of the choices that she was making, particularly in, a young man. And so there was some shouting and crying and screaming and all of those different things. But through counseling, we were able to sit down and really hear her for what she needed, for what she wanted, instead of us just saying it's my way or the highway. And within that situation, what do you think counseling helped you to do as we navigated the boyfriend territory? Deep breath.
Navigating the boyfriend territory has never been easy for me, because that's my baby.
Mm-hmm.
And I always want the best for her. But, going through counseling, we were told or even expressed to that she has to be an individual. She has to grow up. She has to learn on her own. She should fall and be able to pick herself up, you know, where we didn't get that option. You know, it was just, you're going to figure it out. But with us going to counseling and parenting counseling and family counseling, we got to hear what she had to say, and then try to give our input by not putting the input, if that makes sense. You know, so I feel that just going to the counseling gave us a different perspective, a different ear on things. Because like you said, when we were growing up, there was no counselors. Like you said, my way or the highway, or if you don't like it, get out. You know
what I heard. Your tears don't move me, right?
So it was testing, but that's what makes us strong. You know, and now I see it as a family dynamic right now that we are open and able to talk about it. You know, there's no hiding under the sheets or behind the pillow or anything else. If there's a problem, we sit at the table that we're sitting at right now. We talk about it.
We do.
You know, and I think that's beautiful. A lot of families don't get to talk about situations or anything that has to deal with relationships or anything like that, especially when it's the mother, father, or daughter or son, however the dynamic may be. It's the kids will keep it to themselves and they'll tell it to their friends, and then we'll hear it on the back end instead of hearing it on the front end.
Yeah.
And through that, it's beautiful.
Yeah, I agree. And I know we've always told Amaya that come to us. Please don't go to your friends. Come talk to us. So it helped us to create this safe space, right? And I know that I don't think I necessarily had that growing up. I did kind of what I wanted to do. I bounced ideas off of my friends and I tried to figure it out. So the counseling helped us a lot with being able to have those open and honest conversations about stuff that we didn't want to hear, right? You know, that you are nervous talking to your parents about. But I feel like because, to your point, Darius, the way that we've created that family dynamic is not only allowing her to do that, but it's showing her friends that. Because we've had friends that needed to come and stay with us for a little bit because of how we parent Amaya. Now, you talked about communication, so I want to jump into that.
Okay.
So communication has been key for us in this family, and really being able to make history, you know, as I was saying, with it being Women's History Month, how we communicate has been huge. So not only do we have these family sit downs, you know, but we really, really do encourage everybody in this house, even the 8-year-old that tried me every single day, you know, to talk to us. He tries you too? Yeah. To talk about how they feel, what they're feeling, and why they're feeling it. Again, that's not something that I grew up with. And so using Liam as an example, you know, I've had to learn how to parent him. We've had to learn how to parent him differently from Amaya, because what she needs is very different from how he deals with things. And so one of the things, I'll probably get in trouble for saying this, but in Black families, you don't get to have temper tantrums, right? You don't get to fall out, do none of that. I'm mad, none of this. So one of the things that I'm proud of is that when Liam is frustrated, when he is angry, when he's tired and doing the most, y'all, like absolutely the most, we give him that space to say, tell me what's going on. And oftentimes, you know, like the issue we were having earlier today, real life example, he was frustrated because he's still learning how to tie his shoes. Don't judge us. Yes, he's 8. We know he should know how to tie his shoes, but it's hard-headed, right? But it's been easier for us, you know, with him getting out of the door to have the slip-on shoes. And so he was frustrated as Darius was trying to help him to practice tying his shoes. And so this is where we kind of play good cop, bad cop. You know, he got to the point where he was like, I can't. So Liam came to me, and instead of him, you know, instead of me being upset that he was whining and crying and all of those things, we sat down as a family. I'm like, well, tell me what's going on. And just creating that safe space for him to say, well, you know what? I got annoyed because I'm tired of trying to tie my shoes. I did it for 10 minutes straight. Why do I need to keep doing it? And after allowing him to express himself, to communicate with us about what he needed, he said, Mom, I just really need a break. And Darius was sitting right here. And he said, okay, well, how do we do this better next time? If you need a break, instead of you rolling around the floor like a Ninja Turtle, why don't you say something to us, right? Say, hey, Dad, I just need a break. And so we're teaching him those communication skills now, so that as he grows up into a young man, a teenager, an adult, that he knows how to communicate, that he can understand that it's okay to be upset, to take a break, pause, and let's communicate about what you need. Because what I seen growing up and what I still see sometimes, and tell me if this is true for you, is that, because you're a kid, you don't get to validate your feelings. No. You don't get to talk about what you need or any of that. And then that turns into you stuffing that down. And if we want to create capacity, and if we want to create, self-sufficient children, it's important for us to create that space for them to talk about how they feel. Now, I know this has been a huge point of contention with us sometimes. So talk to me about how, you've worked through that, especially with Liam, because mine has been good for the most part, right? Not too much trouble, but with our younger one, this whole new generation, y'all know, if you have kids that are varying ages, they're different. That's all I can say. It's just that they're different. So tell me, how this has worked out for you.
It's hard. I will say that, especially growing up the way I grew up. Like you said, we didn't get to say that I don't like this, or I don't want to do this, or I don't want to learn this. Mm-hmm. It was either do it or don't do it, or just go to bed. Mm-hmm. But now being able to see him express his feelings and hear him express his feelings, we got to also remember he is a person. Mm-hmm. He has his own feelings. He has his own thoughts. And we don't know what he's went through prior to going to school and coming home and dealing with things, because school is hard, mm-hmm. And people look at people certain ways and it triggers certain things and everything else. And Liam, he's a scatterbrain. He runs around. All he wants to do is just run. And he
play.
Doesn't run. And it's just hard for him. But at the end of the day, we got to be able to listen and to hear what he has to say. And like you said, sit down and talk and everything else, and then come back and be like, how do you feel? And I think that makes the person or the child feel a lot better when you ask them how do they feel or what's on their mind and everything else. Because mm-hmm. growing up, nobody asked us how we felt.
No, they didn't.
It was hard. Especially, I can even speak for myself. Nobody didn't care about how I felt mm-hmm. or anything like that. It was, you take your butt to school, you do it, come home, do your dishes, and maybe you'll get a little TV. Mm-hmm. But that was it, Mm-hmm. Like you said, this day and age and generation, everybody has a laptop, a telephone that they're able to just get away from. We didn't have that outlet unless we were going mm-hmm. outside to play, and then we had to be in before the street lights came on.
The street lights, don't you get in past some street lights.
Right. So, I think talking just to your kids it'll make the world a lot better. Mm-hmm. Because a lot of people don't talk to their kids. It's just, we go to work, we come home, we cook. Good night, I'll see you in the morning. Mm-hmm. It's like two ships passing in the night.
Yeah, that interaction has been everything. And so we've been really intentional as parents just to change that, right? To make sure that we are spending quality time, to make sure that we are listening to how they feel, and understanding, I give my parents credit because, as a child, you think that your parents have all the answers. They don't. And I didn't realize that until I became a mom. So to have that empathy, like, I don't know how you did this with 7 of us, and there's 10 of us in total. So, I'm hoping that the seeds that we're planting now are going to help them to be better when they get older, and that they then take these skills that we're teaching them, to help them through the trials and tribulations of being a parent, because it's hard out here for a parent. It's hard. So the other thing that I want to talk about is capacity.
Your favorite word.
My favorite word. So capacity to me is the amount of time, energy, and resources you have to deal with all the moving parts of your busy life. And is it true that capacity is like a household word in this house?
It is.
It is, right? The kids say, I don't think I have the capacity for that. I'm sorry, sir. You're gonna have to make the capacity to clean that room, right?
It is.
But even as parents, we have really learned how to maximize each other's capacity. And that has been life-changing for me, because a big part of the reason as to why I'm able to do what I'm doing as a capacity coach is because of this guy right here, right? Him understanding that the capacity that I had 10 years ago is not the capacity that I have today. Because at one point, it was about 10 years ago, right? I was working full time. I was going to school full time, just all of those different things, full-time wife, newlywed, all of that. And that has shifted. Our life has shifted. And so I've had to be honest about what I need and what I need help with.
Mm-hmm.
And he helps with that, right? And then he has to be honest about where his capacity is and really taking the time to understand how much capacity each of us have. So where I fall short, he picks up. Where he falls short, I pick up. Now, I have to be honest here. There is a lot more of the capacity taking that he does on my part, because I'm grateful to say that, you are Chef Rhone. I don't have to cook, right? And oftentimes I don't. That takes a huge weight off of my plate. But I don't know if I've ever told you this. I've told my listeners that I felt bad as a woman and as a wife at first, because I felt like it was my job, it was my role, it was my responsibility to cook, because that's just what I've seen, that's what I've learned. And so you helped me to see that, hey, I'm really, really good at this. Not that I can't cook, because I can get down, y'all. I can. Believe me. But he does it better, quicker, and faster. And so he's like, why are you being so stubborn? Just let me do it. Right. And so we trade off on highlighting what he's good at and what I'm good at. And so we recognize each other's capacity, and that helps us to be better parents. So, and I'll touch on this part in a second, but we get to model that. And I want to know how you think that impacts our children and, right now and in the future. But first, I want to ask you, how has this capacity journey been for you as our lives have evolved as spouses, as parents, taking on more responsibility, me leaving corporate and, becoming a full-time entrepreneur and business owner?
These last, I'm going to say 3 to 4 years, at the beginning, it was real rocky because it was COVID. Mm-hmm. And we all were trapped in the house for a year and a half.
Almost 2, yeah.
So, but I think even then, we really found out who we are, what we were capable of taking on, and what we can do. Mm-hmm. And you starting off into the entrepreneurship and, leaving your job and everything else and walking into the place that you are in now, I had to increase the capacity to take on new roles, to take on the bigger journey steps and everything else, to let you sit down and focus and get into the classes that you were in, and watching you there at the computer from 8 to 5 to 6 o'clock at night. I knew that it had to be done just for you to start the journey that you were on and that you're on right now, into the place that you're at right now. Because it ain't been easy.
No, don't make me cry on here.
It hasn't, I could remember when we started our first podcast. In a hotel room.
Oh my gosh, when I went live for the first time, and I was nervous.
Yeah,
but you created the capacity. He was the cameraman. He was coaching me. He was like, look like this, sit like this, take a deep breath. You're gonna be all right. Yeah, but man, I forgot about that.
It's been a journey, but I think just sitting back and I always say play the tape forward and see where it's going to go. Don't ever go backwards. Always go forward and play the tape so far forward you let your mind wander and get into places that you've never been. And look where you're at now.
Yeah.
You got over 1,000 viewers and over in your podcast and everything
I
else.
just hit 6K. Y'all. Congratulations. Thank you for being listeners.
And just, it's beautiful. I love it. I love from you from the head to the toe, and everything, it's not easy, but you do it. You'll sit right here at this table for hours at a time, but somehow you get it done. And I try to make your life as easy as possible that it can be, like you say, where you fall off, I pick up and keep picking up and keep picking up.
You know what? Don't you do that?
But, no, it's beautiful though. I enjoy walking with you in this.
Thank you. I appreciate it, because I often say, so many people hear about the negative side of what we went through. And, to be able to sit here and talk about the positives and how we show up for our kids and we model that behavior, it's amazing. I'm laughing because, Lanisha, I see your comment. Play the tape forward. Come on, capacity coach. Yes, that's what it is, right? And that's something that he tells our kids all the time. And we're helping them to start early, right? I hadn't heard nothing about capacity early on in my life. And what I want to do is make sure that not just women, but everybody that can hear the sound of my voice, that can see my face, that we all do the preventative work to not reach burnout, to delegate even when it's not the norm, to make sure that we're having healthy conversations, that we get the help that we need so that we can show up in both our personal and our professional lives. And I couldn't do that without you, because really being able to take stuff off of my plate so that I can focus, so I can show up and serve the people that God has called me to serve. He put you in my life for a reason, right? And you help me with that every single day on, the days that, like this morning is a really good example. I was up a little bit late and I was tired this morning. I normally get up and move around with Liam, and he's normally out for work, but he was here. And so he's like, you know what? Sleep in. Let me get the boy ready. I'll get him out. Do what you need to do. And so fast forward, play the tape forward. You like that? You got that? Later this afternoon, as we were getting things together, we were looking at venues for the conference that we're actually having in August. So I'm going to talk about that in a whole nother time, whole nother story. But I knew that he'd been up taking care of stuff while I was working and doing things. I'm like, hey, do you need a fresh cup of coffee? Do you need some lunch? Like those sorts of things, right? Really, when I see him working hard and he needs some things and he sees that I need some rest, and vice versa. So it's all about give and take. And the thing that I love the most is that our kids get to see that, right?
Yeah.
I don't think that I told you this. But it may have been a week or so ago, and Amaya was like, Mom, I really love how you and Dad love on each other. I really am grateful to see what I see, because a lot of my friends don't have that. Some of them don't have dads in their lives. Yeah. Some of them don't have moms that are doing the things that we're doing. And so it's making a difference. It makes a really big difference.
That's changing family values and family core.
Yep. We shifted and breaking curses, right?
Yeah. And trying to instill in them what they should instill into their kids to change that dynamic of Black families. Yeah. Like you said, that you don't see a lot of mom and dad still in the home. We're celebrating 11 years next week.
Yes, sir.
So, I mean, and that's big. You don't see a lot of, I'm not going to stereotype us, but it's the truth. You don't see a lot of us stick together forever and build that cohesiveness. You see people come together at family reunions and stuff like that, but when you have that family unit and everything else, and it's tight and it's hard where you can't break it, that's family. That creates the capacity to expand and make that dynamic that a lot of people don't have.
It does. This has been so good. I'm so glad that you're here. Look at you getting over your shyness and warming up. Wasn't he good, y'all? No. Wasn't he good just talking? Also, Lanisha said that we needed this chat, the Rhones as a series. Okay. Oh my gosh. So I didn't tell you this part either, but I'm going to tell you now. I know couple surprises, right? You new to this podcast thing with me.
Okay.
So because you technically still are our guest, even though we're sitting in the same room, there are 3 questions that I typically ask every single guest.
All
and
right.
so deep breath, sir.
Okay.
So the first one is, if you could go back in time and have a conversation with the 17-year-old version of yourself and give him one piece of advice and one piece of advice only, what would it be and why?
Ooh, okay. The 17-year-old version.
That's
of
deep,
me.
huh?
Yeah. Go to school. Go to school. Finish what you started in high school. It was rough getting into adulthood without the educational part, because of I'm from the environment. I was a product of my environment. If people understand what I'm saying, so if I would have went to school, the dynamics of Darius would have been different to the dynamics of Darius of what you see now. I would have had a little bit more education. I would have been in the school of hard knocks as being a cook and stuff like that. I would have went to culinary school and everything else and learned as I was going, instead of just learning from starting at the bottom of the kitchen and working my way through the kitchen.
To the top. Come on.
Yeah,
beep,
so-
beep, toot, toot.
I would tell myself, go to school, finish it. It looks like it's going to be hard, but in actuality, a degree goes a long way. A piece of college education goes a long way. Yes, you got a high school diploma, but this day and age and everything else, where it's computer technical and everything else, that piece of paper holds just a little bit more weight. You can have all the experience in the world and you'll get turned down. But if you have just a piece of paper with an experience, it goes a long way.
I love it. Yeah. So to finish what you started. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I love that. I'll take it. Okay. The next question, since we're on the Flow and Flourish podcast, and you know that I am the capacity coach, tell me one thing that you do on a regular basis to make sure that you flow and flourish and that you have capacity.
I tell my wife this all the time. I ask God for the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And that there alone, all those words have a little bit of power in each one of them. However you may dissect those words, it generates so many different things. The words to have the right words to say at that right time, the strength to have the strength to pull through whatever it is, the courage and the wisdom to understand whatever's going on in life. It's not that hard, but always asking God, please help me out. Because God will create all the capacity you need. But if you don't
and preach, sir.
If you don't ask for it, you shall not receive. So that's why, I tell my daughter and everything else, the serenity prayer is very strong. Yes, it revolves around certain aspects of certain people's lives, but it is the bigger process of life. In my book and in my eyes. And it helps me because it be days that I'm dog tired, but God, can you please just go and give me a little bit more strength, and I'll perk up, and next thing you know, I did 10 loads of laundry. I did everything else, and you're like, wow, what happened?
Yeah.
And I asked for help.
He increases your capacity on a daily basis. I love it. And it's true, you have taught all of us to recite the serenity prayer. I don't have my bracelet on today, but you have yours. See? Yeah. True. And when you're not here and Liam creeps in the bed, we say the serenity prayer at night together. So I love it. All right. Last thing. This is not even hard. You are right. All right. So what is one thing that you want the listeners and viewers to take away from our conversation in terms of purposeful parenting?
You only can teach your kids so much. You gotta walk it, talk it, and do it. You know, you could tell them verbatim by your mouth and everything else, but if you're not walking behind what you stand on, then it doesn't mean nothing. You know, if you show them and everything else, and that with a little bit of work, a little bit of elbow grease and everything else, it works. But if you're not standing on none of the words that you stand on, then it's like having a false fable. But if you tell them and you show them and they see it, and they'd be like, my daddy gets up and go to work, and he does this and he does that, and my mom and this and this, and they may argue and they may cry and everything else, but at the end of the night, they're right there next to each other, telling each other good night and I love you and everything else. Then they'll understand that, if you work at it, it works. But if you just passing each other by and everything else, and you're saying you're saying the same words, but you're not coming to that point or to that head, then it's not going to work. Like Pastor said, our rings is full circle. There's no points, there's no heads, there's no nothing. It's full circle. So if you start on one half of the circle and I meet you on the other half, we made a full circle. It's not a 180, but it's a whole 360. So yeah, I mean,
go on and preach. You got to look. Lanisha already said, "Where can we book Darius Rhone for other podcasts?"
Yeah, just please talk to your kids.
Yeah.
Don't
wait. That's two things.
No,
I said one.
No, because it's part of parenting.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
Well, no, but wait a minute. Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry. So it's two things. Talk to your kids
and let them know that it's going to be okay.
Okay, I love it. Did you have fun?
Yes, I was a little bit nervous at the beginning, but
you did good. I'm proud of you. Thank you for getting on here with me. I love it. And what I'm always saying is walk the talk, right? Our kids do what they see, not what we say. And so I love that you ended it with that, because we are living, breathing, walking testimonies of that. And so we try to make sure that our words match our actions. And, when it comes to capacity overall, it's the same thing. What you say you want, like, what are you spending your time on? We say that we want healthy, well-rounded kids that know how to make decisions, communicate, and express their feelings. And that's what we're doing. We're helping them create the capacity to do that. So, oh my goodness, this has been so fun. I might have to do some more live podcasts. For those of you who follow the podcast, this one will be posted later on this week. I did want to go ahead and just give you a little bit of a treat. Bring on Chef Darius Rhone so that we could talk through and have this amazing conversation. So if you enjoyed this, please let us know. And if you are watching the replay, let us know that you love this as well. You can find the Flow and Flourish podcast on all the platforms. We are on Apple Podcasts, Google, Spotify. Oh, you and your yes, Lord. Y'all see this? So thank you again for all of you who are watching live. Thank you for the replays. We really appreciate it. And we hope you have a wonderful night. I look forward to continuing to be your capacity coach and watching you flow and flourish in every single area of your life. Good night, guys.